Good afternoon and welcome to Florida Repertory Theater's Stage at Home virtual Talkback series for Friday, May 8th, 2020. I'm Jason Parrish, your Associate Artistic Director and your host for the afternoon. As always, we want to begin by thanking our viewers for joining us for the fifth week as we broadcast from living rooms and home offices around the country. Everyone at Florida Rep is so looking forward to the day we can gather at the theater again. But until then, Stage at Home will be here to give you an in-depth look at how we make the work you've come to enjoy and to introduce you to the artists, technicians, administrators, and professionals who give of themselves to create it. So whether you're tuning in on Zoom, Facebook Live, or listening to our podcast, welcome to the discussion. So today's discussion is about making new plays. And back in 2014, Florida Rep made a commitment to develop new work and to bring playwrights into our artistic family. Florida Rep joined the National New Play Network that year as an associate member, and we created the PlayLab Festival. Through generous donor support, this highly anticipated annual event has become a highlight for many of our patrons each season. In just 7 years, Florida Rep's PlayLab has produced 32 play readings, including 2 commissioned works for young audiences, and led to 6 world premiere or regional premiere productions, including Split in 3 by Daryl Fazio, 2 National New Play Network Rolling World premieres, Double Wide by Stephen Spotswood in 2017, and this season's Alabaster by Audrey Sefley. In addition to the obvious benefit of helping playwrights to develop their plays, the PlayLab has also sparked a passion in our audience and has deepened awareness about how plays are made. Some of our PlayLab audiences have become champions for individual plays and playwrights, following them across the country, and in some cases, even across the Atlantic Ocean, to be part of a play's continued development. So before we begin, I want to take a moment to recognize our PlayLab sponsors who never got recognition they deserved this year at this year's festival. So Lee Moore and Dee Whited, who I believe are watching today, are grand PlayLab sponsors. So we want to offer you our thanks, as well as our individual reading sponsors, Guy Almling, Linda Sebastian, Emily Eason and her dog Cosmo, Noreen Rainey, Judy Weiner and Mary Dennison, and our Playwrights panel sponsor, Val and Darlene Arnold, and our Playwrights networking sponsors, Naomi Bloom and Ron Wallace. So thank you all for your unwavering support of new work this year and always. So due to the shutdown, our 2020 PlayLab Festival, scheduled for last weekend, was postponed, but it was set to feature 6 new play readings, including another commissioned work for young audiences that we'll talk about in a further Stage at Home. So because of the timing and the proximity to this year's PlayLab, we wanted to spend this afternoon talking with an expert panel of giants in the American theater new play movement about how to make new plays and why making them is vital to our survival. So with us today is Nan Barnett, Executive Director of the National New Play Network, and 4 playwrights whose work has been seen in past PlayLabs, as well as on our stages as world premieres. Nathan Can, Angelica Sherry, Daryl Fazio, and Bruce Graham. Welcome to Stage at Home. So before we begin, I want to remind our Zoom panel of participants that you can join the discussion by entering a question at any time in the chat window, and Facebook Live participants, you can type a question in the comments. We'll get to them over the course of the evening. So I want to begin with Nan Barnett, Executive Director of the National New Play Network. Nan, can you start by telling us who you are, a bit about your background, and what the National New Play Network does?
Sure, I'm delighted. Thanks so much for having me today with this amazing panel. It's so great to see all of your faces and names as you join in to watch. We really appreciate your support. National New Play Network is an alliance of now 125-ish professional not-for-profit theaters that collaborate in innovative ways to develop, produce, and extend the life of new works. Many of you, of course, at Florida Rep are familiar with our Rolling World Premiere program, which provides support for a writer and a play when 3 or more artistic directors agree prior to it ever beginning rehearsals that they will produce that play, fully produce it with entirely separate and distinct artistic teams within a 12-month period. We've supported almost 100 of those plays now and are very excited about the fact that several of them have been there with you guys at Florida Rep.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Can you tell us also a bit about the New Play Exchange and how that has helped to change the landscape of new plays?
Sure, I'd be delighted. One of the things that we find most exciting about this time that we've been in right now is that, am I feeding back at my end, or is that coming from somebody there?
I can't exactly tell who it might be. Why don't you try again?
Okay, I'll keep talking and we'll ignore it if it comes back. So yes, New Play Exchange is a online database of now nearly 34,000 plays by living writers that is available to anyone, anywhere in the world who has the internet. Basically, you can go on and find a play simply by its title or by the playwright's name. But more importantly, for the industry, there are very robust search mechanisms that allow a producing director, an artistic director, a playwright, another playwright, actors, directors, designers, people from all parts of the industry, and especially now audiences, folks who just want to read a new play that's about a specific topic, or for those who are looking to produce things that might have a certain cast size or a certain makeup of characters, be on a topic that we feel that person feels is really important to their community. It's a very user-friendly, very robust database that allows anyone to read new works by writers, including many of the ones here. I'll let you in on a little secret that I'm probably not supposed to tell, but for example, I often read for new play competitions across the country, both in NPNs and other organizations. And last year, I guess, had the opportunity to read a play that I fell head over heels in love with. I couldn't wait to finish it. I couldn't wait to talk to people about it. And of course, the script was sent to me what we call blinded. So there was no playwright information allowed. So I immediately did the sneaky thing and went onto New Play Exchange and put in the title and discovered that it was Daryl's play, Safety Net, which I just thought was one of the most powerful pieces I had seen about the opioid crisis. I was able to help start talking to people about it, and I'm delighted that she's been able to see productions of it, and I hope there are many more to come. So it's just a really great, robust resource for anybody that's interested in new works.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'll say, as someone who works with new plays, it really has been, it's been game-changing for us, certainly, but I'm sure for all of the playwrights who are on it. So thank you, and thanks to the organization for creating it. I wanted to begin our discussion with our panelists with Daryl Fazio. So Daryl, I wanted to start with you because our journey at Florida Rep with new plays is sort of linked to you and will always be linked to you because you were our first world premiere. You were in our first PlayLab back in 2014, and then we selected your play Split in 3 for production in 2015, the following year. So I just wanted to ask you to give us a bit of your background and your history, and tell us more about Split in 3, and then the other 2 plays that you've had in our PlayLab, since you've been in our festival more than once, and how the PlayLab helped you, and how it's set you up as a playwright.
Just touch on that briefly. I don't know, 10, 12 seconds. Gotcha. I come from an acting background. I'm self-taught as a playwright, so it's been kind of a long journey for me. And the development side of things has really had to come on the ground, like thrown right into the fire, so to speak. And Florida Rep was sort of halfway into my time of writing plays, and was certainly my first big production when the play was chosen. But even the PlayLab experience, it was really unlike anything I'd ever had the joy to do, because the community is so unique in the way it just sort of envelops you in its arms, and it's this huge space. And that year we did it on the main stage, so it was a impressive place to do a reading, to say the least. And the way that you engendered conversation, the way that you got your patrons excited and passionate about the work made me feel like I was like a rock star or something, quite honestly. It's not something playwrights are used to feeling really ever. So there was that. It was a big confidence booster, but I also learned so much. And it was sort of a down and dirty experience, and that was fine. And the talent that you brought in was second to none. And then when you selected the play, that was my first really significant professional production, and it was gorgeous. The production was absolutely breathtaking, and I still marvel at it. The production values are always beautiful, but the care you took in casting, the care you took in developing the play, you always have like the period where you bring us together several months out with the cast. You cast it early, we're able to work on the script some more and really think about how we put it on your stage for your patrons. And then we did. And that experience certainly made me a convert. I mean, I was like, well, if you're gonna have a PlayLab, I'm submitting something every year if I got it. So let's see, what was it? The next year I didn't participate, right? And then the next year was Flower Room.
Yeah, I believe in 2017 or so.
Yeah. So I had a little play about a woman's sexual awakening in her middle age, and you were like, no, it's okay, send it. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It's quite a fit. And of course you had the black box at that point where you could do things that were a little more daring and risky. I thought, okay, what the heck? So I sent it and was shocked when it got in. And then that was such a cool experience because it wasn't the kind of thing that your theater normally produces, but we still had the most amazing conversation and the most amazing, passionate, interested, curious patrons to talk about it. And it gave me a lot of confidence in the play that I had written something that struck a chord with people of all ages. And that was pretty special. And then then I participated as an actor, right?
Yes, you did.
And gave a talk about what it's like to be a playwright. And then the next year I had my play Safety Net, which is about the opioid epidemic in the festival, and I was also in it. And, you know, it's hard to really put words to what a special experience that was. Again, the casting it made the experience. It made me learn so much more about the play because I had written it for myself originally to work on as part of a developmental process at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, and that had been great, but I could only get so far. And so coming to Florida Rep to work on it gave me not only a different audience, but another group of artists to help me see the play through a different lens. And then, of course, your usual great discussions afterwards, patrons grabbing me in the hallway and wanting to talk to me about it, people talking to me about their own experiences with opioids, the panel that you did, and I also got an agent out of that experience, thanks to you.
Remarkable.
So, yeah, so I mean, I can go on, obviously, but not only is Florida Rep been a place for me to learn, but it's been a place for me to grow into an artist and to feel like I'm doing something that matters.
Well, thank you for saying that. I promise it wasn't a leading question.
Yeah, well, I don't feel led. I didn't have to be led.
If you can also tell us a bit about what's happened with Safety Net since you've been here in our PlayLab festival last year.
Yeah, I knew when I came to Florida that it was going to be produced in Atlanta at Theatrical Outfit, which was a theater I had a relationship with already, and I knew the tone of the kind of pieces they were looking for and their patron base really well. And I kind of wrote it with them in mind, and then the way things happen, it just fell into the artistic director's lap and he jumped on it. So I knew that was happening in the fall, so I could come to Florida and think about, do I want an intermission for that production? Do I, need to take out this scene? Does it need to be shorter and tightened up? And then it was also getting a production in Maine. That production on opening day So they had a full rehearsal process, and then the day it was set to open, the governor of Maine announced that they were cutting, due to COVID-19, cutting back on the number of people that could be in a crowd. And so Barry Newport, the artistic director, decided to cancel the production. And what they ended up doing was recording that with just like some of the staff and the audience, and they streamed it for 10 performances online, and people could buy tickets. And that was like one of the early ones of those cancellations. Like it was right at the top when that started happening, and then before I knew it, it was like a domino effect. You know, they were all dropping like flies. So I was supposed to be in that one. I didn't get to be because of family stuff, but also it didn't really get to, you know, fully be realized. And then it's also supposed to happen in the fall at a theater that I imagine also will have to cancel.
Well, I wish you luck with it, and I hope that you'll be able to reschedule that production.
Yeah, I hope so too. You know, obviously there are a lot of problems out in the world, and some of our plays not getting produced are not the biggest ones. But that particular play, I wanted to reach people. So I hope it has more of a chance to as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll move next to Nathan Can. You've been at our play festival twice as well, in 2016 and 2019. So can you give us a bit of an intro about yourself and who you are and where you're broadcasting from, and a little bit about both of these plays, Appear at the Edge of the World and last year's The Last Buckley?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Nathan. I'm in New York City. Center. Yeah. In my apartment, haven't left for 7 weeks. It's very cozy. But I finally figured out grocery delivery, so it's all good. I'm a New York-based playwright. A lot of my work happens here. I have a little theater company that I started here in Harlem, where we put together very scrappy things because we have no money, which is fine. But 2 of my plays have been a part of the PlayLab. Both fantastic experiences. The first was Appear at the Edge of the World, which was, what year? 2016?
Yes.
I want to say 2000. Oh, I'm seeing pictures on my screen. There's Claire Brownell, which was a wonderful experience. And then last year, I was back with The Last Buckley.
And tell us, I think tell us a bit about those plays. Many of our participants today will have probably seen both of these plays. But if you could give us the nutshell synopsis of certainly Appear at the Edge of the World, because it was a few years ago.
It was a few years. Appear at the Edge of the World, it takes place on a lake in upstate New York, and it's based around a set of twins, fraternal twins, and they've kind of been lost in their life for a time. And Jennifer, the sister, lives up in this, beautiful, idyllic country estate on a lake there. And the night before the play begins, her brother shows up, announces that he's leaving his husband. And I should mention, she is 7 months pregnant, carrying their child for them.
She's a surrogate for them. Yeah,
she's a surrogate for them. And then it's just a day in the life as this family comes apart and then comes back together.
Yeah.
Does that sum it up, Jason?
It does sum it up.
I know.
It does sum it up. I just wanted to remind our audience.
Sitcom actress as well, who's losing her mind.
And so tell us, in both cases, what does something like the Play Festival here at Florida Rep, what did that do for you? What did you take from it?
Quite a bit. It was a play that I started in grad school, and it was not finished. And in the time after grad school, I did a complete rewrite of it, and then had not heard it, no one else had read it. I sent it to you. It was accepted, and it was such a thrill to go down there with an incredible cast. Really, that's something I find amazing at Florida Rep, is that the talent at Florida Rep is pretty astounding. A playwright should be so lucky to hear their play with these actors. And also the feedback and the talkback was incredible, and hearing what people had to say about the play and the questions that they had. I think it's something that as playwrights, we don't always get that opportunity. I don't think we get it enough to dig in, and because you have to get all your friends together and beg them and give them food. But come to my living room. But to have it in such a professional, wonderful way with such intelligent feedback, and the audience is there, so smart, really just helped the play grow. I think the time after that, it's gone through a couple of other rewrites. I love when a question is posed that I don't have an answer to, because that means I need to put that into the play. And there were definitely a couple of things that came from that reading and went directly into the play. So I think it really helps the play grow into what it is right now.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much. And I wanted to also mention, we saw a picture of it earlier. This is just sort of these how these things work out. When we do our play festival, we try to bring as many of our ensemble members and ensemble artists together. So in the case of Appear at the Edge of the World, and with the original reading of Split in Three, just wanted to make mention that the director of both of those plays was Greg Longenhagen, who's now our artistic director and on this call. So we saw some photos of Greg pass by with Split in Three, but I just think it's worth mentioning that all those years ago, he helmed that production and Appear at the Edge of the World. So great. So Angelica, we'll move on to you. And if you can tell us a bit about your background and where you come from, and about your play, Berta Berta, and the journey it's been on since it was in our play festival in 2018.
Yes. So my name is Angelica Sherry, and I am in Los Angeles, California, where I'm born and raised. And I had the wonderful, wonderful opportunity of having my play Berta Berta read at PlayLab in 2018. And I thank Nan for the NNPN, because the reason why I found out about PlayLab was because of when I submitted Berta Berta onto the website, New Play Exchange, I was notified that it was an opportunity that was available for my play, that it qualified, and I applied, and boom, here we go. So thank you, Nan, and thank you, NNPN and New Play Exchange. And so we had our reading, and it was a unique situation because when I was selected for PlayLab, Berta Berta had then been already scheduled for a world premiere production at the CATF, the Contemporary American Theater Festival in West Virginia in Shepherdstown. And so when I was accepted into the festival, I spoke with Jason and with the team to see if it would be at all possible to bring in my director, Reg Douglas, who was already scheduled to direct the production in West Virginia that was going to go into rehearsal within 30 days of PlayLab. Literally, we were there about a year ago today, 2 years ago today, around the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th of May. And May 31st was when we were going to start rehearsals for Berta Berta. And so it was really interesting to have the opportunity to have a preliminary conversation about the play with actors who we knew were not going to be in the production because that production was already cast. Ironically enough, Mixolydia Tyler, who played Berta in this reading, actually was cast as Berta in the production that was shut down at Everyman. Backtracking a little bit, so after the PlayLab, there was the world premiere at CATF in the summer of 2018, and then in the summer of 2019, Bianca Laverne Jones, who was in the CATF world premiere, along with a different actor as Leroy, came into the National Black Theater Festival, and we did another remount of that same CATF production at the National Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So that was the third stop of the play. And then just recently, we had another production of Berta Berta at the Everyman Theater in Baltimore, which featured Mixolydia Tyler, who was Berta in the very first reading here at PlayLab, and a different actor, Clinton Lowe. And we were literally in our last day of tech, right before our invited dress, when the play shut down, when the entire theater shut down. And so it has had these 3 steps since PlayLab, but it was so valuable to be able to have those conversations about the play and to hear it and play in community with the talkbacks and have some conversations about it that really prepped us and set us up for success for our rehearsal period in West Virginia.
Yeah, excellent. And I'll say the CATF is Contemporary American Theater Festival, and they are in Shepherdstown. Am I correct about that?
That's right.
In West Virginia.
And an NPN core member theater.
Yes, thank you, Nan. And a number of plays, actually, completely by coincidence and similar tastes, I think. But David Meyer's play, We Will Not Be Silent, had a similar story. It moved from our play festival to a premiere at CATF. So if any of you watching are interested in new works and are in that area, I recommend you look them up. Nan, before we move to Bruce, I wanted to go back to Nan and maybe to Nathan to ask this question. So Nan, Angelica mentioned that her play was able to come here with the same director that was eventually going to CATF. And I think that speaks to your sort of unofficial tagline for the National New Play Network. So can you tell us that tagline and how it pertains to this particular example?
Sure. It started as a joke, but it's actually become kind of something we think about a lot. And that is, I like to say that the networking part of the network is what makes the network work. And so that is about providing opportunities for people to meet each other, to be together, to make sure our members are having the chance to tout the plays and the playwrights that they're interested in. And it makes for this very holistic and complete circle. I know all of these playwrights that are with us today through NNPN affiliated activities. Daryl, I think I first met at Actors Express in Atlanta, and then have been able to follow her career through that. Nathan was a part of the MFA Playwrights Workshop that we do each year at the Kennedy Center, where we invite the top graduating MFA writers from across the country who are getting a degree in playwriting to come to the Kennedy Center, where they are then paired with NNPN affiliated directors and dramaturgs, given a professional cast and a week to work on whatever they want within a play. So this cycle, and then now I'll spill the beans about Bruce Graham, which is that Bruce and I have known each other for a very long time, because I like to think I had two prior lives. The first, I say I am a recovering actor and a survivor of the LORT managing director system. And Bruce and I intersected in both of those when the company that was known as Florida Stage here on the west coast of Florida produced several plays for Bruce back in the early days, including a play, one of his usual charming, very funny disaster plays, known as Early One Evening at the Rainbow Bar and Grill, that I both produced and was in. My favorite memory of that is that I had to carry a rat in a cage around. Thank you, Bruce Graham.
The rat was equity too. It cost a fortune.
Yes. So that networking part of the network, making the things work, is very evident on this call today.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And thank you for the segue. I couldn't have asked for a better one. Bruce, I wanted to go to you next. So you've had two plays in our play festival, Gary in 2018, and then last year you were here with something completely different, Good Americans, which we're set to do the world premiere of in the future. But, even just looking at your body of work, Florida Rep has produced plays of yours before Moon Over the Brewery, and also you had some success off-Broadway with Outgoing Tide. And I think what all of those have in common is that they're completely different from one another as far as genre is concerned. So I'm interested in
attention span. Okay, Jay.
So I'm interested in knowing from you, do you decide the tone of a play before you sit down to write it, or does that come to you as you write? So if you could answer that question while telling us a bit about Gary and...
Well, Gary's a good example because Gary was gags. I started out as like Daryl, I'm trained as an actor and never had a playwriting course, and so self-taught. And so I wrote a lot of, gags. I was a comedian. And it's what I call sometimes a mental health play, because I had done White Guy on the Bus and Outgoing Tide and Sanctions and all these depressing plays. And sometimes I just sit back and, if I wasn't a playwright, I'd probably be a sniper or serial killer or something. So I just sit back and just have some fun. And I did. And it was just, but my fun comes from everything that gets me angry. So it's like whatever I see on the news that night, I think, oh, it's going in there. Okay. And I don't have Alexa or anything in the house. Gary was based on when, Alexa takes over. I won't, have that stuff in my house. But I'd see commercials of it during football games. I was like, you can't look that up yourself. You got to ask something. So we're all turning into, couch potatoes or something where Alexa does everything for us. Working down there, it was great because it's a comedy. And you don't know if comedy works until you put it in front of a live audience. We had a reading 2 weeks ago of my new play, which is getting done in Philadelphia next season. And it's a 2-character comedy, and we did it on Zoom. And I had to keep looking at the boxes to see if anybody was laughing. It's, comedy in a vacuum doesn't work. And so we get down there, and the cast was fun. The cast really had some creative ideas they were throwing out there, and I was stealing all of them. I was acting in a show at the Eagle Theater, and they said, what are you working on? I said, well, I just, and they read it and said, yeah, we want to do it, because they're really tech guys. And so now, when coffee was supposed to appear, it just, appeared. And they had all these visuals, crazy stuff. There's some right there. Well, not the girl on the left. I don't
know who that is.
No, I don't. I don't remember that. But the audience, seem to like it. And I don't read reviews, but unless they're hanging in a lobby. So I don't know where it goes from here. I've been kind of busy on other plays. Including,
sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, including Good Americans. Yeah.
Right. If we can go back to Gary just real quick, I wanted to ask about what that particular experience might have taught you. Going into it, it's a very technologically based play. It's about, as you said, an Alexa sort of Gary who comes to life in a way and takes over for them. I had the privilege to direct it, and I remember us contemplating, should we record this voice? Should we not record this voice? Should this be live? Should he be off stage? And we ultimately decided to keep him on the stage. What did that teach you, and how did that take you into the next production of the first production of it?
It didn't teach me so much as it confused me, because it works. So the actor, I forget, it was so great, and he was getting laughs with his reactions and stuff. And so we toyed with the idea of kind of seeing a TV screen, like a Max Headroom sort of thing, that comes up as Gary. And the more we did that, also we had the guy playing Gary played 2 other parts too. So we double cast everybody. So we just went with a voice. But I'll tell you, I was really torn on it because I had never thought of it that way. And you suggested it, and I said, well, let's give it a try. And it really was funny. I mean, there was a lot of good laughs in it.
Yeah. Thank you. And then tell us a bit about Good Americans for those who might not have been at the Play Festival last year. What is that play, and where did that come from? If you can tell us politely.
Good Americans is the third, of course, the last part of the trilogy. I've written something called Something Intangible that premiered at Northlight about fictionalized Walt Disney and his brother trying to make Fantasia. Again, at Northlight, we premiered Funny Man, which is about loosely Burt Lahr doing Waiting for Godot. And my last showbiz thing, this is John Ford, John Wayne, Ward Bond, Ben Hecht, who ironically I just played in Moonlight Magnolias, trying to do an honest film about George Armstrong Custer at the height of the McCarthy era, where Ward Bond, this character actor, could make or break your career, and how they have this incredibly lying, powerful politician, and how some things never change.
Sure. Excellent. Thanks, Bruce. Sure. Reminder to our panel, if you have questions, now is the time to put them into the chat window or to post them on Facebook. I wanted to ask the panel, since I know all of you have different answers to this question, especially when it comes to whether you're writing a play that's been commissioned. So if you can each sort of answer the question about how the writing process for you begins. Does it start with an idea? Do you start with a concept? How do you come at it to start writing a play? Daryl.
I knew you were going to call me first. Yeah, I usually I do have an idea, and before I get into any outlining or figuring out too many specifics other than the setting and the time period, is figuring out the people. And the people are the heart of everything that I do, figuring out every little thing that makes them tick, from what's their favorite color to what kind of food do they like, to do they have any physical disability, or do they have a sense of humor, do they curse a lot. I love figuring all that stuff out. And every time I have a new play reading or bring out a new play, people are always asking me, are these people you know? Like, I have a new play about female coal miners, and everyone, that's all they want to know. Is this based on people you know? I was like, well, no. And I love writing with people I don't know. They're not even usually, like some writers say, they take pieces of everybody they know and they make this new person. It's not even that. It's figuring out, it's like creating a human being out of all these little pieces of humanity, and then figuring out how that makes them behave. And then if you know what the setting is, and you know a theme, and you know what you're trying to achieve, then you put those humans in there, and they hopefully do the work for you if you've done your homework.
Sure.
So yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
But I write a lot of things where I'm trying to shed a light on things that maybe people don't know a lot about. So unfortunately, civil rights movement, female coal miners is one, the opioid crisis. Women usually figure in heavily into all those women in those situations.
Thank you so much. Angelica, if you'd like to take that one.
Sure. I sort of do what I call like throwing spaghetti on a wall. Obviously, if it was a commission, no inspiration is greater than the deadline. So that definitely would inspire me to kick into gear and figure something out. But if it's not induced in that way, usually an idea will come to me. And I just kind of sit with it for a while, and it ruminates over and over in my mind. Like, for example, with Berta Berta, I was watching the Ruben Santiago Hudson production of the piano lesson, and then the men started singing Berta Berta, and then I was just kind of stricken by that, thinking, where did this song come from? I've never heard it. I've never heard live prison music before. What does this mean? And then that question just sort of flipped over and over and over in my mind until I just wanted to know who they were, and I wanted to know where this song came from, what the origin of it was, and who these two people were who were in love, the person who sang the song and the woman he's singing about. And so I will just take an idea like that, and I will have certain tent poles that come up in my mind. Okay, I know this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and this is how it ends, or this is how I think it ends. And then I just write a mess draft where I just explore all the different things. Rain can come out of the ceiling of the living room, fire can shoot out of the television, there's no rules, there's no structure. I just kind of go on a lucid dream throughout the play. And then after doing that, I like to get some friends, actors, people to read it out loud, and then I take a step back and start to shape it. But I have to go into the world and figure out what it is and understand the play parameters before I can get really structured.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Nathan, do you have an answer for how you begin a process?
It's, I wish I knew more. It's different every single time. It's never been the same with any play, but it's either always like an event, something in history, or some strange idea. And then it just strikes me as that there's another story beneath it. And then it always has to be the character. Who are the characters and what are they pursuing? And it is that ruminating. It has to like just sit in me and over me. And then I can never begin writing a play until I have the set. My plays are always about some location, like Pier being, for about 4 years, I had this idea that I wanted to do a play that was just a lake and a pier on it. And it took having a deadline. It was in grad school. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have to write a play. And so I said, well, who am I going to put on this stage, on this set? And I myself am a fraternal twin. And it was always this joke that if I ever wanted a child, which it turns out I'm fine with my cats, so it's good. But my sister always said, oh, I would carry that child. And then there was a point where she said, listen, we're getting older now. the womb's closing up. And I thought, well, okay. But so then I thought, that's where the play began. And it was this idea of, what if she was already pregnant and then I no longer had room for that child in my life? And that's where the play began. And then The Last Buckley began with this strange news story that I read about this man in Minnesota who a neighbor child disappeared like 40 years ago. And every few years, they think that he killed this child and they go and they dig up his yard. Every few years, the authorities come and dig up his yard. And I thought, well, what if that child had a really wonderful life and is a politician in DC now? So that's where that idea came from. And then, of course, the set. Oh, let's put it in their kitchen at the end of this family's dynasty. So it's I think it's always some event and some idea that's horrible, and then a great set. And then I just go.
Excellent. I love that you create the set, but you're not a set designer. You would lean on someone to do that. Yeah.
No, I would not going.
But
I don't
you
build.
create it in your mind's eye.
Yeah, and then also, however it's realized is how it's realized. It's that set's there as I'm writing it, and it can change, it can transform, but I can't begin until it's there.
Sure. So we have a question from the panel. This would be for, I think, Daryl and for Bruce, more specifically. So if your play is selected, Darlene asks, if your play is selected for Florida Rep's PlayLab, from the PlayLab for production, how might it change before a full production, like Good Americans, or in the case of Split in Three? How does something change from the reading to the production, which might be a year to 18 months after?
I know with Good Americans, some of the reasons I wrote it in the first place are becoming more true every day politically. And I know that's going to inspire, some little rewrites. I don't see any major structural things that will change. The structure is there pretty much. I think we've got the skeleton, and now it's going to be putting some extra flesh on it here and there.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And Daryl, for Split in Three, we did the reading in May, and then in December we brought the full cast together to do another workshop session, another reading, and then it premiered in May. So how did it evolve between those three processes?
You're really asking me to dig back in the old lady memory bank here. As far
Broad
as
strokes,
how much a play might change between a PlayLab and the production, I think everyone's going to be individual. With that particular play, I hadn't had a ton of professional level development. And I certainly hadn't had to think about, what do they do when they put it on the stage? And so the artistic director at the time was like, we don't want these other settings that you have. We want this to be a unit set. So get rid of the scenes that take place elsewhere. And I was like, okay, that is a very specific note, and I can do that. And then other than that, it was just, there were questions people had, clarity issues. When you're dealing with an historic event, you want to make sure you haven't been over expository to the point that people feel like they've read a history book, but you have enough in there that they really feel the urgency of the situation and they understand where it's coming from. And so that was what I was sort of juggling with that play. But, Safety Net, if you would produce Safety Net, that play was pretty much ready.
Sure.
When we did the reading of it, because of the development that I had at the Alliance Theater for.
And that play had a slightly different beginning. Didn't you get some sort of grant or a residency to make that?
Right. So the Alliance has this program where you just submit a few pages of a project and then a long proposal about it, and then you have a 12 to 18 month residency to write the play and have developmental workshops and readings and however you want to use the time. And so, we took that play and we really took it apart and put it back together many, many times before it got to Florida. Yeah.
Sure.
But I still learned, the intermission came out of doing the Reading Florida Rep. So there's still things to be, even when you think, oh, it's ready. You have a reading and you get in the room again with artists you haven't worked with on it before, and stuff's gonna happen that you're gonna never know you needed to know. So
excellent. Thank you, Daryl. I wanted to ask Nan a question. If you can talk to us a bit about how the new play landscape has changed in the last decade or so. Certainly since you've been with the National New Play Network, and before when you were with Florida Stage over on the East Coast. So how has the landscape changed of late? How's the movement changed?
Well, let's talk a little bit about pre-COVID, because I think the whole world we're in a whole nother set of changes. I believe the collaboration that the founding of NNPN was able to facilitate has really moved how many companies are doing new works across the country and how they're doing them, how the development has been done. Being able to advocate for works and writers that are not coming out of New York with New York Times reviews, that are living in communities, what we call plonies, playwrights living outside of New York. They're living in communities all across this country and making great work. And now we're able to facilitate the sharing of that work so that plays can get multiple productions and that writers can get introduced to as many theaters as possible to help share their work across the country. Obviously, the advent of something like New Play Exchange has really driven that forward, that the right work for the right theater is there and available and can be found no matter where the playwright lives, no matter what the playwright's background is, how they're credentialed or not, and certainly what their past experience has been. We see writers who've never had a play produced before being discovered, as well as writers who've had wonderful careers in the specific region that now are getting done all over the country and around the world, frankly, because New Play Exchange, I think we have people from more than 40 countries. There's about 20,000 users now, plus about 500,000 students who have it available to them through their colleges and universities' library systems. So that, I think, has been really important. And then the support that NNPN provides, both financially and as a service organization, to help take the fear out of producing new work. I think we have made it more viable for a lot of companies and made people believe that they could do it, that they can do it, that there is an audience for it. And we are delighted, of course, to be able to support that. Now, as we look forward, we're spending a lot of time thinking about what are the things that we want to make sure we take into the new world, across the bridge to the other side, whatever that may be. I think that there's a lot of accessibility issues that are going to get resolved in this time of learning that we are in now, that we've discovered that you can produce work. It might not be what we think of traditionally as theater, but the work that's being done online, that's being streamed, that's being done live is very exciting. We're finding that writers are really loving the chance to have their dream team, that you can have someone from Seattle in the same reading as someone from Detroit, and that perfect actor who happens to be living in LA right now. We can all be together and you can put together the best possible group to work on your play. So a lot of development is getting done. And we're really excited about what this might mean for artists and audiences that have traditionally been unheard or unrecognized, and how this world might this time that we're in right now may do a little to dismantle some of what we have seen previously as barriers to artists being able to share their work. So as much as we mourn the loss of those plays that got mounted and never got seen, or that were scheduled and didn't get produced, we're going to be working at NNPN to make sure as many of those works get done as possible. We've asked our members, all 125 theaters, which range in budget size from $50,000 a year, annually a year, to maybe 15 million plus, to think really hard about reopening when they are ready to reopen with a new work as a commitment to what the future looks like in the American theater. And we'll be providing support for those productions to happen. So as much as it's been a time of loss and grief, personally and professionally for us, we are very excited about what this might mean for the.
Thank you. You muted a little bit, Nan, but thanks. Thank you for that. Thank you for those sentiments. Before we wind down, if there are any final questions, please feel free to put those in the chat window. I don't mean to put this person on the spot, but I see in my Zoom window that we have another playwright with us today. So Nan is talking about the things that got postponed. So PlayLab 2020 did get postponed, but I see Jeanette Farr in one of the tiles. So Jeanette, you don't have to turn your video on, but if you want to unmute and say hello. Jeanette was to be in our 2020 PlayLab. So Jeanette, say hello to us. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I had my mask on because we have air conditioning being serviced today, but hi. Yeah, very interested. Hello, Nan. And this just sounds like an absolute dream. And I am so moved and thankful, Jason, that you and your group said to postpone, not to cancel, because playwright development in whatever form is so vital to the playwrights process. So I'm looking forward to getting in the sandbox with y'all and playing that way. I did pose a question, actually. I'm an LA playwright, by the way. Hi. But my heart certainly is in Florida as well. We have a lot of the same weather, so. But I posed a question to Nan a couple of days ago. I know that the NNPN does a showcase of new work for their playwrights. Is that still scheduled to happen, or in a modified form? And it's okay if you can't answer that, but that was a looming question. I think it usually happens in May. And was scheduled for Florida. So
Right. So we have our annual conference, which will be happening virtually. That was going to be at Phoenix Theater in Indianapolis. That's the May-June session. And then the showcase is in December. And we are hoping to be here in Florida at Florida Studio, just down the road at Sarasota. And several of those events are open to the public. We'll be talking to you about it more as we get closer. In fact, today, we are the submission opportunity, which goes out to our theaters to support, to submit a play that we could be adjudicated down to the 5 that we'll actually read for the public. Submissions closed yesterday, and we're going to have somewhere between 90 and 95 plays that will be adjudicated down to the 5 that are chosen. That will be the 3rd weekend in November at Florida Studio in Sarasota.
Thank you, Jeanette, and thank you, Nan, for that update. I also wanted to bring into the discussion our artistic director, Greg Longenhagen, who's watching from, I believe, his office.
I am.
Greg, alone in the office. Greg, do you have
I
any?
am alone. I could pick up my laptop and turn it around
Right.
just to prove to you that I am in fact social distancing right now.
Right.
Thank you, Jason. Guys, I don't have much. I just wanted to say a couple of things. You know, Nan, it was so exciting to hear some of the reporting that you did on plays and playwrights rather being able to put together actors via Zoom. And that was, in so much that's going on right now that is so tough and so negative, dare I say, to hear a little bit of positivity and hear about somebody making some lemonade out of lemons. It's just so great to hear that. So that was exciting. So thank you for reporting on that. And I also want to say, for those of you who don't know Nan, I mean, Nan, you and I, we've known each other over 25 years. I mean, Nan, all I want to say is this is a woman who has dedicated her life to new plays and new works and shepherding young authors and getting new works on stages. And she really is. I mean, I'm gonna toot your horn, Nan. You're pretty iconic. I mean, you really are. You have done so much for so many, and we're all so grateful. And it's so wonderful to see such a Daryl. I'm familiar with her work, and Angelica, who doesn't really know me, I know her work. Nathan and I have worked together. It's so fun to see Jeanette on the call. Bruce Graham, I've known. Oh God, Bruce, Bruce forever. He doesn't know that I've known him, but I've been a big fan since Minor Demons. I remember seeing that when I was in college. I was like, who's this guy? This is great stuff. In fact, a buddy of mine, my buddy Jim Schutis, was in it from Upper Darby, but that's another story. But it's such a wonderful family that gets created when you bring playwrights together with actors. It's always fun to work on any type of production. But when you're working in a play reading scenario, and of course we're all fast and furious because we have to do it. It's very quick, mostly for financial reasons. But it really is a bonding event, and it bonds in a different way than even working on a full scale production, because you have so much discussion and so much bounce back of ideas that are being, as an artist, as a performing artist, or as a director, it's being absorbed. And Jason, you do such an excellent job of pulling in the greatest artists, the greatest writers who come in and who are giving and want to learn from the readings and are just cool people and great, just great artists and great folks. So I applaud you, because you head that up in a beautiful, beautiful way. I also want to recognize, as you did earlier, Jason, Dee and Lee, who are on the call. Lee Moore, Dee Whited. These folks have been our angels. They have been spearheading this with Jason and the team for the last several years. And there are several other wonderful donors who give so generously to our new festival, our new play festival. And I just wanted to wish you all of great health as you venture through this time. I know it's trite and everyone's saying it, but this will end. It will have a middle. It will have an end. We will get through it, and we will get back up on the stage, and we will get new works back up on the stage. And not that I want to get too preachy, but just keep that in your heart if you're having a rough day, because we're all gonna be all right. And that's all I have for now. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you so much, Greg. And some of you have asked, Darlene asks, will we, for an update about the PlayLab. So PlayLab 2020, as all of this shut down, I just wanted to let all of you know, because you do support new works for us so well, and you've grown to love it. When all of this shut down, we could have rushed into putting the PlayLab online and do this via Zoom. But I think all of us sort of wanted to wait to see how things were going to happen, because there is something about being in the room with the artists, and there's something about being in the room collaborating about it. So we're sort of putting our plans for PlayLab 2020 on hold. One possibility is to move all of those plays into the following spring. Another thing, we'll see if we're allowed to gather and do it earlier than that. But we really do hope to take the same titles that were supposed to be put on the stage in 2020, either later in 2020 or perhaps next spring. So don't worry, we'll get to see those plays, including Jeanette's. Any final words from anyone on our panel, our playwrights? Any final words for us before we adjourn for the day? Words of thanks or encouragement? All right. Excellent.
Oh, I was just going to say thanks for doing this, Jason.
Of course.
I think Florida Rep's certainly important in my life. I adore you all, and it's great to be able to check in with everyone. I know we're all separated, and it's terrifying because we're playwrights, and that's about bringing people together. And I've been very confused, and I feel less confused for a brief moment, and that's great.
I love it. I've been social distancing for 40 years. I'm a playwright.
Yeah.
I stuck my NNPN email address into the chat. If anybody has questions about National New Play Network or New Play Exchange, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll shuffle you information or get you to the right person who can help you.
And I wanted to actually make sure that this was made clear. So, Nan, the New Play Exchange, you don't have to be a new play. You don't have to be a theater professional. You don't have to be an artist. Any person can join at the New Play Exchange. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And it's extraordinarily inexpensive. You can get a basic reader profile for $15 annually. So that's $15 for a year, gives you access to those 34,000 plays. It's really easy to sign up. Just go to newplayexchange.org and it'll walk you through it, or you can reach out to me if you have a question. We love audience members joining us. I was in Philly at a event and had a woman walk up to me afterwards and say, you know, I'm not a writer and I'm not a theater person. I just came with a friend tonight, but I want to clarify, are you saying that I could go on, put in a topic, let's say bitter ex-wives in their 60s, and then I could go in and read a play about that? And I said, yes. And she said, why do I have a therapist? So go read a play.
Yeah, especially now that we all have so much free time. So if you've run out of puzzles and board games, join the New Play Exchange. Any other final thoughts before we wrap it up for today?
Just want to add my thanks to Jason, to the entire Florida Rep family, also to Lee and Dee, who have been supporting not only my play, but all of the plays that have been in rotation, and to Nan for being a part of the reason why we even know about these opportunities. And it's just great to see everybody's face.
Thank you, Angelica. And thank you to every single one of our panelists. I know you're all very busy, and it means so much that you've shared your afternoon with us. To our Stage at Home viewers, a reminder that if you've missed a past Stage at Home, all of these talkbacks are available on our YouTube page or our Facebook page, or as rebroadcasts as a free podcast, searchable Stage @home on Spotify, Google Playlists, Anchor Breaker, and Radio Public. So you can listen to all of those there, including this one, which will be up shortly. And this will actually also be cut together and be available for sharing and rebroadcasting next week. So when we began this Stage at Home series, we announced 5 weeks worth of content, bringing us to today. And because the series has been so popular, we're so excited that we're going to be able to announce 5 more weeks. So look for that announcement next week. But I will give everyone watching today the inside scoop. And next week's Talkback, next Friday at 3:30, will be a Talkback discussion with the cast and Greg, the director of this past season's hit, Barefoot in the Park. So that whole cast will be together, and Greg will be here to talk about that play. So join us next week, and look for an announcement early next week for the other 4 of those. So follow us on Facebook. Make sure you've joined our email list, and you can check the news section at floridarep.org. Thank you all so much, and thanks to our panelists for spending the afternoon with us. And we can't wait till we're able to gather in the theater again. But until then, we'll see you right here. So from all of us at Florida Rep, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Bye, guys.